The following will contain some spoilers for the Owl House. You have been warned. Hello again, everyone. This is Dragon Videos, and I'm presenting another Owl House segment. I'll be doing these for a while since we're all kind of stuck on the hiatus as of right now. So while doing so, let's reflect on what we know about the Emperor's Coven so far. Well, they're like the Diamond Authority, ruling people with a somewhat oppressive manner, as well as just denying them free will to choose whatever they want. And if they disobey, they take drastic measures of doing so, such as petrification. But it's also ruled by a very heartless Emperor Belos, and then of course, one particular Golden Guard is of interest. In this case, we have Hunter here. Upon learning his backstory, or a little bit of his backstory, we get the idea that he has some redeemable qualities. He does try to keep his word and be fair in terms of how things are handled. So for this video, I'm going to talk about the possible redemption that Hunter is having, or is going to have later on in the series. And in order to discuss it further, I thought it'd be better to talk about it through the people that he'll have that will lead to that redemption. So without further ado, let's begin. So I guess it's only natural to start off Luz, since she is the main character of the show, and probably the first one who ever had a proper interaction with him. So in hunting Talisman, Luz definitely is very intrigued and shocked when she learns a bit more about the Golden Guard, and been taken away from the previous image that she thought of him before in episode 1. And I know that I had that theory about them having a romance, but I'm also okay with them being siblings. And that's probably a bit of a dynamic we're going on, though it's still a brief amount of time since they interacted. But hopefully that'll pick up soon. But as I said before, I feel like their relationship is so important in so many ways in terms of how they have to rely on each other in more ways than one. But putting that aside, Luz definitely knows what it's like to struggle without having a sense of power in your life. With her, she had to learn how to do magic on her own and had to rely on glyphs in order to perform any sorts of magic. Not only that, Luz is really a very affectionate person. She's very attentive and will most likely listen to all of Hunter's problems, as well as she begins to understand more about what's life going on in the Emperor's castle, she may be able to help him try to get through some of his emotional abuse, as well as she is very familiar of letting down the person you love. And because after what we saw in episode 10, yeah, this is definitely a bit of where a lot of pain and disappointment kind of plays into how Luz is also going to be influenced with his redemption. But in a lot of ways, Luz can definitely help him try to break free of what he's going through and try to help him feel optimistic, as well as just finding some eagerness in places he never dreamed was possible. As a matter of fact, even encourage him to take on the same kind of learning she did. I mean, she also did that impact with Lilith, but that's going to be discussed later in the video. Anyway, Luz is definitely one of those characters that helps you feel motivated and wanting nothing more than to continue with what you're doing, regardless of what other people think. even though Luz is also struggling with that, having Hunter also have that relationship with her would also be beneficial. Not only that, but I'm pretty sure when Luz is fighting Belos again, Hunter may be involved and may soon realize of just how bad the Emperor is, not only to him but also to other people that Hunter really cares about. And so, upon realizing when the mask is ripped off, Hunter may finally turn against Emperor Belos, which might not be easy, but at least he'll have a chance to think for himself for a long period of time. Hopefully that his little talisman pal won't meet a horrible demise. Fingers crossed on that. Anyway, when he finally leaves the coven with the help of Luz, trying to having his back, and if he gets imprisoned, Luz will most likely want to help him because she doesn't want him to suffer any way possible. Now, I know most people are kind of exasperated about Ida, mostly because of the tendency of being childish and having somewhat no adult responsibilities, though she has grown a lot in the series since from episode 1. But also at the same time in Eclipse Lake, when Hunter was trying to warn her about Fool's Blood, she didn't listen to him and always made fun of him. Well, to be fair, in episode 1 she was held up against her will by the Lone Guard and being dangled over by the boiling water of the boiling seas. And if someone did the exact same thing to you, I'm pretty sure that the guy who threatened your life would be the last person that you would want to listen to. So, yeah, it's understandable why Ida doesn't want to listen to Hunter. But I'm pretty sure somewhere along the line when the two interact for a little bit, Ida may understand or try to go through Hunter's mind and try to make him open up a little bit more. He may even realize the distress of how the Emperor's Coven is putting on poor Hunter, and the same concept that had happened with Lilith. It's even by then she may become a second mentor to him, the same way she is with Luz and Amity. She'll probably still get a little snarky with him and sometimes blow him off, and even talk smack every once in a while, but by the end of the day, she'll be a little bit more nurturing to him once he shows that he's willing to change, and maybe even help him encourage some thoughts for himself, which may not be easy because she's a wild witch and he's part of the Emperor Coven, but when they put those differences aside, I'm pretty sure they'll succeed. If the theories about the Hunter being a Grimwalker is true, whatever a Grimwalker may be, it may cause Hunter to go through an existential crisis, questioning of who he really is, his identity, as well as what he wants to do with his life. This will cause an emotional breakdown for him, up to the point where he can't function properly anymore. It's by then this is where King would come into play. King definitely knows what it's like to be an outsider as well as struggling with identity, which is something he's probably still gonna be dealing with on the second half of season 2. I mean, after all, when he was a little baby, Ida took him under his wing and kind of accidentally gave him an identity of that he was a ruler of demonkind, which wasn't the case. And upon learning the truth, it was a huge struggle for him to come to terms with who he really is and what it may mean later in the future. King, of course, can be a voice of reason at times, and he is also, like Ida, a bit reluctant to be with a Hunter, especially after being called a rat a few times. But I'm pretty sure, like he did with Amity and Lilith, he'll get over that fact and just see him as this guy who's a bit vulnerable and just dealing with a sense of identity as much as he does. King may be able to help give that sense of comfort because he just really is that good of a friend. As I said before in my previous theory about Luz and Hunter, Amity is definitely not on good terms with Hunter at the moment after their showdown in Eclipse Lake. She may still be bitter and hostile towards him because of the threat he made. So of course, it will be fair for her to be a little sketchy and hostile towards him when he goes on the road of redemption at first. As well as she'll be the one who'll have to keep the closest eye on him. But putting that hostility aside, she knows what it's like to be with horrible parents and having to deal with unrealistic expectations and having to deal with unhealthy regulation of trying to make people happy. Because of this, Amity might help be an ideal friend to Hunter when he goes through these struggles once again. Of course, I feel like Luz and Amity would be ideal candidates of the redemption for Hunter because they both have something in common with Hunter in terms of like what it's like to be powerless, dealing with things that are beyond your control, as well as in some ways being an outsider to the people you're surrounded with. And I feel like that's gonna be one of the biggest concepts of how Hunter will be redeemed in the future episodes to come. Right now, as far as we can tell, they didn't have much interaction in this show. Lilith just has a personal vendetta because Hunter is of a young age and seems to be in good graces, or quote-unquote good graces, with the Emperor. However, when the two probably meet again, I'm pretty sure Lilith will also understand what it's like being used by the Emperor. And it will be an interesting dialect when they talk about their time with Emperor Belos, as well as an emphasis of the betrayal that they all feel, as well as the realization of that they have been used by this once powerful being that they looked up to for help and guidance. I feel like in a lot of ways this is what's going to happen with these three characters. They're probably going to hit some realization at some degree and some point in the story. I know that the writing may come off different from what I'm theorizing here, but it is something that to keep in the back pocket. And I feel like in some ways, Lilith will understand the struggles of what it means to redeem themselves, so I feel like she would be also a good mentor to Hunter in terms of how to grow as a character. Surprise! Were you expecting this? Apparently not. Anyway, I know that many people hate Kikimora because one of the reasons why is because she almost killed Hunter and tried to interfere with his mission in Latisse, as well as tried to almost kill Luz. However, we still don't know much about her history with the Emperor, but from what we're getting, she feels insanely obligated towards him and wants nothing more than his approval. And I feel like in some ways this is a little bit close to like a sibling rivalry between Hunter and Kiki. They both want the attention of the Emperor as well as just making sure that they remain in the power of their position. However, they don't exactly pay attention to the reality of their situation and that they're actually being used against their will by the very person they looked up to. And of course, Kiki is very careful with what she does. If she was able to speak out about what Hunter did at Latisse, I'm pretty sure there would have been some heavy questions on her part and probably worse consequences. So that's why she kept her mouth shut about the whole thing in episode 6. However, I feel like in some ways there could be a chance for them to talk a little bit, as well as a possible self-reflection, once Kiki is finally getting over her paranoia, as well as Hunter finally stopping to see Kiki as someone who will just threaten his life, as well as just try to treat her as a proper equal. I know that's a big struggle because of the mentality that the Emperor's Coven have, but I'm pretty sure that once Hunter realizes that Kiki is as much of a victim as he is, they may start to try to pull their act together. And if it weren't for Kiki, Luz may not be able to interact with Hunter properly, even at all. So folks, these are just my thoughts on how Hunter's redemption is going to work. What do you think? Remember to do a comment, subscribe, and do a like on this video. This is Dragon Videos signing off.